Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
And welcome everyone to this week's edition of Sports Shorts presented by L'Auberge Casino in Baton Rouge. Now open 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. All the restaurants, 18 Steak, Bon Ton Buffet, Stadium Sports Bar and Grill, all of them open over at L'Auberge Casino. And this weekend they're opening up it's the new rooftop pool. Is an adult only 21 and over pool at L'Auberge Casino. No more Rugrats running around. So go by there, check it out. Tell them you heard it right here on Sports Shorts. Joining me is a legend in these parts, Mr. Kent Lowe. He's with the LSU Athletic Department, Senior Associate Communications Director, now in his 33rd, about to start his 33rd year at LSU, and of course a big part of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. How are you, sir?
Good, Ronnie. Thanks for having me.
It's probably got to be nice for you to be talking sports, right? You've been kind of on the sidelines. You're most famously known as the sports information director for LSU basketball, going back to the Dale Brown days. And LSU basketball having another good year, looking like they're going to finish strong. Where's the seeding going to be in the tournament? Can they make the Sweet 16 again? All of that's in front of them, and then boom, the rug's pulled out from underneath your season.
Yeah, you're exactly right. First of all, it's good to be out of my house, frankly. But you're right. It was coming to a point where you knew this team was going to the NCAA tournament for the first time in back-to-back years in a long time, and you had a team that was pretty confident going into the SEC tournament that they could make a run in that thing for the first time in several years. And so it was, and John Brady and Chris Blair and I have talked about this so often. We flew to Nashville that Wednesday, and as soon as we landed, we saw the announcement by the NCAA that there would be no fans at games. So, I mean, the three of us, threw our stuff in the rooms and quickly walked down to the arena because we wanted to see what was going on, and got there just about halftime of the first game when they made the very unpopular announcement that after tonight's games there'd be no fans. So, okay, fine, we can do it.
We can live with that.
Yeah, we can live with that. Let's play the games. And then we went to the gym, to the arena the next morning, Thursday morning. We weren't going to play till late Friday night. And then went through our practice, came back. The team was having a breakfast at 10:30, and right before that, the NCAA canceled everything, and it was just a domino effect. Everything was done, and all of a sudden everybody's trying to get the heck out of Nashville.
For you, there's another year. Hey, hopefully we're back next year. We move on. It was just a crazy season. For the players, especially guys that weren't seniors or guys that were going pro, this was it. I mean, if you got like Skylar Mays, one of the all-time more popular players in LSU basketball history, a Baton Rouge guy, and he's got an NBA future, but he was looking forward to finishing out strong and maybe making a run and kind of putting himself in the history books at LSU. All of a sudden, that's pulled out from under him. It had to be a very emotional couple days, I would assume.
Yeah, it was. The wild thing was us trying to get back. We had to wait for the charter companies and all involved with all the teams, so we had to wait for the charter company that was bringing the Nashville Predators back from Toronto to get a plane out of Nashville that night. And I know there were just a lot of hours when players were just sitting there on their phones, just looking at the news, and they had to be wondering. And in Skylar's case, I was updating the records for next season, and it's amazing if you add another 20, 30 points or another 80, 90 minutes, how much even higher he'd been on some of the rankings that he ended up finishing high in. But, he had a stellar career. It was going to be a nice finish. he's going to, I think, have a chance to be like Tremont and get drafted maybe in the second round. So I think he's going to play basketball. And, of course, the great thing, Ronnie, is, he won the McWhorter Award from the league, which is a $20,000 postgraduate scholarship. And he wants to eventually go to medical school. And you can defer that, according to the league, 5 years. In fact, Skyler even called me after he won to ask about that possibility. So, there's going to be an opportunity for him to play professional basketball somewhere, hopefully, and then go on to medical school and join his father and members of his family who are and have been in the medical profession. So that's a good thing.
You're kind of like the resident historian for LSU basketball as you enter what will be your 33rd year. And you think back to 33 years ago, that was kind of the heyday of LSU basketball with Dale Brown. And what I mean by heyday is, now we get excited when there's 10,000 people in the stands. There was always 10,000 people in the stands for the big games back then.
Well, the interesting thing, I kind of saw it from both angles because I was in grad school and God, this seems a long time ago, 79 to 82. Right. So that was the Final Four year in 81.
That was the beginning of
that was
LSU
kind of when things were starting to roll, and then came back for 88, 89 when I was hired. And, of course, that was Chris Jackson's first year, and then the 3 years after that was Shaquille O'Neal's 3 years. And it was really, an amazing time. Two great athletes. Of course, Chris, now Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, was an amazing player. How he did it with the Tourette's, I just have never figured out. And Shaquille was just a big kid who loved to play basketball and learned so much and improved so much from his freshman to his sophomore and junior year. Now, if that was 2020, he would have never been here 3 years.
Right.
So, and Chris Mahmoud probably would never have been here 2 years. So, it was a great time for LSU basketball. It was a time that was allowed because of the circumstances of how basketball was then. One and done wasn't a thing then. And it'll be interesting as we move forward in the years ahead how much, if they go away from one and done and they make it either like the baseball rule or a 2-year thing, how much the game will change and either get better or players won't play as hard because they know they gotta stay, or what the various ramifications of that would be in a few years.
Well, what people don't realize, a lot of people don't understand, is that, the NCAA has no say in
Right.
when players can go pro
Right.
or not. That is strictly up to the league, and every league is different. Major League Baseball, for example, it's 3 years. Once you get to Division I college baseball, it's 3 years or 21 years of age by the time the draft comes around. So sometimes there are 2-year players. Cole Henry, for example, at LSU baseball this year was a 2-year player. DJ LeMahieu was a 2-year. Ryan Schimpf, Mike Fontenot.
Yeah.
Those were 2-year players that were great ones and got to the big leagues. But I think it would benefit, no question, if you're the NCAA, they want the league to mandate players stay 2 or 3 years. But I think the right number for college basketball is 2. I think the 2 really would benefit them physically, maturity-wise, and make them get a little bit of education out of it.
And do you go to a baseball rule like it was at one time in basketball? The players like LeBron and Kobe, who went straight to high school,
Right.
straight from high school to the NBA, or do you have the choice to either do that or go to college for 2 years?
Right.
So that will be the interesting thing.
I think that's fair. I mean, let's face it. We live in the United States of America. It's a free capitalist society. I mean, if you got the opportunity to get paid to go, you should. If you're a superstar player, if you're a transcendent talent, and you're able to sign out of high school and they stash you away in the D League for a couple years, but you're getting paid millions of dollars, so be it.
Well, we're seeing that now with some of these basketball recruits who have the option this coming year, to go straight to a G League camp type team to work out for a year and hone their talents to then be in the NBA draft.
I know this question is always a tough one, whenever you ask somebody like yourself, or when we have Skip on the show and you try to ask him to nail down or something, but I'm gonna ask anyway. Your favorite player, as a sports information director, what people don't understand is that the top players, you get very close with them because you're constantly interacting with them. They're constantly having requests for interviews from magazines or television or radio, and even more so now than ever before. And so you have interactions with those top tier players a lot more than you do with, say, a guy who is the 8th guy on the bench. So you get to know them, especially if they stay 2, 3, 4 years. I would assume that Shaquille O'Neal is a separate entity all in itself, right? I mean, got to be one of your more colorful favorite characters to deal with.
Oh, definitely. But I will go back into Shaquille's era to give you one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember the name Vernell Singleton.
Sure. Had the Band-Aid on the shoulder.
Yes, that became a thing. He hurt his shoulder and had a cut on his shoulder and started putting Band-Aids on it.
Was it a Mickey Mouse one?
Well, it started out as plain Band-Aids.
Okay.
And then fans started sending that was the era of the cartoon Band-Aid.
Right.
It was like the Ninja Turtles and remember Snoopy and the Red Baron on the doghouse, and people would send the Band-Aids to us, And it became a thing with the media.
Yeah, what kind of Band-Aids
Vernell was like a go-to media quote.
Mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable. The media loved him. And it would become, what are you wearing tonight, or what are you wearing against Georgia or whatever, and Vernell would be like, well, this is a big game. We may need Snoopy for this one, They need him. He's the one player in all my years that when we had senior day, Vernell walked down the court and on the old press row, when it was the entire press row stood and applauded.
He made their job easier.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, the two Temples, Collis III and Garrett, were outstanding with the media. Skylar was great with the media in all times, good and bad. Mm-hmm. And he was really a guy I got to know a lot over the last few years, and someone I'll always remember. So those are some of the guys. But there have been, a lot of great players over the years and a lot of good times.
Well, you mentioned something that was pretty interesting. You said Skylar Mays has been great to deal with through the good and the bad times, and I think that says a lot. From my perspective, a guy that may surprise you, Jared Lee, didn't start off his career all that well, threw a bunch of interceptions his redshirt freshman year when he was forced to play before he really was ready. And he handled it like a champ. I mean, he never dodged after the games. Now that's kind of a thing, right? You have a bad game, all of a sudden, he slipped out the back door. He didn't. He stood up there each and every game and answered questions. And I'm sure he got sick and tired, especially if you throw a couple interceptions. That's the last thing you want to do.
Well, remember, Skylar's first year was the 2-16 year. What was great, though, was the last press conference before senior day. Will spent an enormous, not inordinate, but I mean a good amount of time thanking Johnny Jones because he put Skylar out there and played him live or die during that season. And it really prepared Skylar for what was ahead in his career, and his improvement from that freshman year on was a big factor in his success and LSU basketball success.
He's Kent Lowe, who will be inducted sometime this year in 2020 into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, as along with Robin Fambrough for Distinguished Service Award in Sports Journalism. Both of them well-deserved for their service for over 30 years in the business. We'll talk plenty more about that. Also, talk about the coaches that Kent Lowe has dealt with over the years. Very different type personalities. When you go Dale Brown, John Brady, Will Wade, they all have some things in common, but different in other ways as well. And a whole lot more. Don't go anywhere. Plus, later on, we'll visit with Trey Ledbetter of Southern Fundraising, and he'll tell you about what's going on in the sports memorabilia world. Some, as you see here on the set, we've got a Drew Brees helmet and a Joe Burrow helmet. Some big news in that world we'll tell you about. Don't go anywhere. Sports Shorts will roll on right after this, presented by LeBear's Casino.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino here in Baton Rouge, now open 24 hours a day. He's Mr. Kent Lowe, Senior Associate Communications Director over at LSU, been there since the 80s. Shreveport native. The thing that I always love about your story, people don't realize this, for those horse fans out there, you started off your career at the horse track up in Shreveport as a communications director, and were you the PA guy, like down the stretch they come? Was that you?
No, I did the radio results.
The radio results.
We had about, at that time, back in the 80s, Louisiana Downs was a very big track.
Right.
I mean, it was huge because there was no Texas racing, no gambling, and if you went in our parking lot on a Saturday or Sunday, 3/4 of the
track.
license
plates were from Texas.
Were from Texas, and but it was I was the broadcaster for the track mainly. We did race results. We did the feature races on weekends on KWKH, the big 50,000 watt station, and on Thursday nights we did a talk show, and it would be pretty interesting, especially in the second half hour when you could get off into Oak Lawn area and up in Nebraska where Exarban was open at that time, and we'd get a lot of calls from there, you know, and we had some big guests.
So you're
deal.
The guy that can take that. When I go to the track and I get the booklet of the races, 90% of that information, I have no clue what it means, right? So I'm always basically picking my horse off of
Names, color.
Maybe you can make up a little bit of what they've done, but to me, it's still foreign. Foreign for me.
No, I understand that, and believe me, we started a wager, which is every track has it now, and ours was called the Super Six, where you have to pick 6 winners in a row. And like the second or third day, we had a carryover. Guy won like $30,000-$40,000. He had the only ticket. So, here I go with the television crew to interview this guy. I'm waiting to hear all this great story, how he handicapped it. And he says to me, well, I like those horses with native in their name, and I look at their sires and, pick out, and I'm like, oh, dear.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
No, he just, and sometimes that's how it works in racing.
Are you still a big racing fan? Were you one before that, or did you become one?
My father and I went a lot. I was working at the Shreveport Times part-time after I came back from grad school, doing high school sports and all kind of general things. And a friend of mine said they needed a writer out there, not a rider, a writer, but so I took that position for a summer, for a season, and after that was gradually moved full-time into doing broadcasts and things like that, because I was doing some centenary sports and all, so they knew I had some broadcast capabilities, and just kind of went on from there. The last year and a half, I was the publicity director. And like I say, back then in the 80s, that place was rocking and rolling.
I remember Louisiana Downs back in the day.
It's, not as big today, but still carrying on up there, which I'm glad to see.
So you make the move from Shreveport to Baton Rouge to work for LSU in 1988, and you jump right into basketball. I just want to get some just little rapid fire kind of thoughts as we go through your timeline there. But Dale Brown, just Dale Brown, what was that like? I didn't have to work for him. I mean, you caught him after his second Final Four, right as you're getting into Chris Jackson, Shaquille O'Neal, which was some prime years. What was that experience like, and what do you remember when you think back to working with that Hall of Fame coach?
Well, I mean, Dale was something else. I mean, he was your friend for life, and it's funny, he still calls when he needs a phone number or something that he can't find. But Dale was amazing, well-respected around the league, around the country, and a lot of people knew Dale Brown. And you heard from a lot of them over the course of a year. I remember, he used to have guests on his show, and all of a sudden there'd be Larry King or a Lawrence Welk, or people like that. Ray Scott, the announcer, would be coming on his show, his radio show every week. I mean, it was just the people he had attachments to in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I remember working for Leslie Visser at one point, and they struck up a friendship back in the day. And Leslie told me in the early 90s or something, she was jogging, got hit by a car, and was in the hospital. And next thing you know, she's got a phone call from Dale Brown. It's like, where he had found out she was in the hospital. He reached out. He was like, hey, look, I'm about to go climb the Mount Everest, and I'm going to be off the grid for a little while. Wanted to check on you.
Well, the great story real quick is one year at the tournament, and I think it was in Nashville at the old Vanderbilt Arena, he wore a hat that a Native American in Minot, North Dakota had made.
Where he was from.
A guy named Ambrose Antelope. Well, all the writers went back to the media room and are like, come on. So Scooter Hobbs calls information in Minot and asks for an Ambrose Antelope, and sure enough, they connect him. And Scooter's like, my God, he exists.
Right. We thought this was just another day.
Yeah, I know.
He put in 25 years at LSU. Is in every Hall of Fame. What made him so great, in your opinion?
I think his ability with people. his ability to motivate. A lot of people have always said if the team wasn't very good, Dale could probably make them a 20-game winner. And I think there may be some truth to that, but he had some very good teams, and this coming season will be the 40th anniversary of the 81 Final Four team and the 35th of the 86 team. So, I mean, those teams were some of the best in LSU history. One, very good, probably, could have been the number one team in the country. They ranked number two and probably could have won it if Rudy doesn't hurt his hand. And the 86 team was an 11 seed. Yeah, the Cinderella. So it shows that both sides he could do.
He leaves. John Brady comes in, kind of a surprise choice. LSU's going through, some dark times at that moment with probation and whatnot. And so whoever got that job, it was going to be a challenge. John spent, 10 years at LSU and some big peaks and valleys. It was a strange career in that Sweet 16, SEC champs, SEC champs and Final Four. And in between, a lot of ups and downs. But what was your takeaway from John? And of course, we all know, it's well documented, he's a much different guy now than he was back then.
Yeah, and John got hurt by the eventual penalties that came, because the year after they went to the Sweet 16 in 2000, 2 injuries suddenly left them playing the final 15 conference games with 5 scholarship players.
Right.
And things like that. And it took him a while to get things going at the beginning. But, I think John's career at LSU was as good as you could have, and to have an 11-season career at LSU following Dale Brown,
right,
I think is something that is overlooked sometimes with Coach Brady.
You're following a legend. It's
always exactly,
much more difficult.
And a lot of people don't make it after that. They don't have that success, and I think him getting to the Final Four, beating Duke, beating Krzyzewski, beating Texas to get to the Final Four, that's always going to be remembered because of all those Baton Rouge kids. They were kind of Louisiana's team that year. Glenn Davis, Garrett, Tasman,
and Mitchell from right
Darnell Lazar and Chris Johnson. It was just an amazing couple of years. Brandon Bass, the 2 years before that, who went on to have a decade-long career in the NBA. I think his time is remembered well, and I think it has aged well since he left. And I can't tell you all the people who love him on our radio broadcasts with Chris. So I think that's great that he's back involved in the program, that Will's glad to have him a part of the program, and I think that's just a nice mix to have him back.
Well, I think also, if you look at what's transpired since John Brady's left, and you've had 3 head coaches in the last 13 years or whatever, and I think LSU fans appreciate a Sweet 16 and a Final Four a little bit more as the distance has gotten away from it. Granted, they went to the Sweet 16 last year, but I think when you start to distance yourself, you see how tough it is, and you appreciate, wait a minute, he was the coach here for 11 years and did do some things that other coaches haven't been able to do since he left. So obviously he was a little bit better than we thought. I am a little surprised his career ended so abruptly after the Sweet 16, after the Final Four season. I'm sure you are too, that it didn't extend longer, because the fact that he was able to fight it through, get to the Final Four, but then just a couple of years later he was gone. That's probably a little bit of a surprise.
Yeah, it happened very quickly in the middle of the season, and Coach Bertman made a decision and didn't want to wait. He was afraid word would get out, so he did it with like 10 or 11 games to go in the season. But it is what it is. He was a basketball coach, though, and the thing he wanted to do was coach, and that's why he went to Arkansas State and had some pretty decent success up there for several seasons.
It's funny, the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and L'Auberge Casino came together a few years ago, and we were able to for one of our Suits and Sneakers events at LaBerge and Stadium Sports Bar, able to bring John Brady and Skip Bertman at the event, and they sat down and had a great conversation and kind of put the past in the past, and have had a great friendship since. So, LaBerge and Hall of Fame coming together to bring people together. I want to, get to Will Wade. I want to jump ahead to Will Wade right now. It was an interesting hire in that wasn't a known name here. It was a guy didn't have any roots here, coached on the East Coast, didn't play basketball, wasn't a big player. So it was kind of a hire that took everybody by surprise. But at the same time, I don't know if LSU couldn't have picked a better one.
Well, ironically, him and John Brady have this tie. They both beat LSU the year before they took the job.
True. That's true. Brady at Samford and
Will at VCU
yeah.
in the tournament in the Bahamas. But, and I think that may have been something the administration at that time wanted to do. They wanted to get someone young, aggressive, but not connected to the program so much. They wanted to make a fresh start with this program and needed someone to come in, build a foundation that was going to be solid. And Will Wade has used this always, consistency. He wanted this team to go to consistent tournaments, and it would have been a third straight tournament if it had been played this past year. And I think he has established a foundation now that is going to be able to sustain itself. And that's been, as you mentioned, one of the things with LSU basketball. There have been these ultimate highs, but there have been these lows that the program has gone through on several occasions. And I think now we're seeing that this program can sustain itself and be someone that consistently be a top 4 league team and, win the league every 2 or 3 years, go to a tournament hopefully every year, and maybe advance Sweet 16 and forward.
A couple of minutes before we go to break, I want to ask you how you've seen the change as a sports information director in all sports. I mean, you work with football, but mainly handle basketball. The world has changed since you came to this job 33 years ago. You had a couple sports writers, you had a couple TV stations, you had a magazine or two, and that was it. Now you've got everybody under the sun's a blogger, a poster. How have you been able to handle that? And how? And I know college sports, even more so than even the NFL, likes to try to keep a containment a little bit. And when you're dealing with 18 to 21-year-olds, try to protect them and shield them as much as you can. But it seems like that gets harder and harder each and every day.
Well, I think knock on wood, we've still, have a beat writer for the Advocate in basketball, and football still does. But there are teams, when they come to Baton Rouge, that there's no media that travels with them, which other than maybe their radio. And I think that's been one of the biggest change journalistically that you've seen in coverage of college basketball. Yeah, there are a lot of blogs, and a lot of them are very good, but they're not able to go on the road like you used to have back in when Shaquille played. You'd have 5 or 6 papers on the road, and that doesn't happen anymore. Even with someone like Kentucky, it doesn't happen anymore. I think you're right. Coach Wade is very good at trying to establish a voice for the program, and I think where it's going to be interesting as we move forward by next season, not this coming season,
but 2022.
But 2020, 21, 22 is the NLI issue, the name, license, etc., as to how that's going to change a lot of things, endorsements possibly for players, maybe signing autographs like these helmets,
right?
Things
so in
that.
Theory, you're saying like Joe Schmo basketball player could go to his press conference afterwards and have a Gatorade towel over his shoulder and have a Coca-Cola bottle in front of him as an endorsement potentially.
I don't know.
We don't know what the rules are.
I know. I don't know what it's all going to look like, but I think in a couple of years it's going to be very different, and hopefully by the time it's established, I'm sitting at home enjoying my retirement.
I tell you what, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting. Before we take a break, I want to recognize that this December 15th through 17th, and let's go ahead and pull that up. The Hall of Famers this year's class, which Kent Lowe is a part of, December 15th through 17th in Natchitoches. You're receiving the Distinguished Service Award in Sports Journalism. And Marty, let's go ahead and get that pulled up. The picture of this year's Hall of Fame class. You've been working with the Hall of Fame for decades, but most importantly, the last 17, 18 years, you've been the guy that's helped put all the TV coverage on Cox Sports Television. Now you get to take a seat in the stands instead of behind and enjoy yourself. To a certain extent, we're not going to let you off the hook entirely, but congratulations to you. And we look up on the screen, we've got other Hall of Famers that are getting inducted this year. Bodybuilder Ronnie Coleman, and you see others on the screen. Yeah, that is Nick Saban from his LSU days in there. But alongside you, bottom left, cutting down the nets at the last SEC championship is Robin Fambrough, good friend of yours, who's been covering high school sports forever for The Advocate. It's got to be exciting not only to go in and to the Hall of Fame, something you love and believe in, but also going in with Miss Robin.
Yeah, it is. I mean, she's absolutely great. She's done a tremendous job with the coverage here. I'm still one that reads a newspaper in the morning, so I mean, I read all that stuff, and even what she's been able to write as far as preps in this pandemic era has been amazing. I'm so looking forward to it. I think back to 2003 when we did the first broadcast on CST, and we were just hoping we could pull this together with 3 cameras and that had to be separately edited, and just hoping we could come up with a way to get all this show together. People were working for free, or I was paying them out of my own pocket. For many years on that show, just because I thought it was important that the Hall of Fame had a television vehicle. And now the fact that we've been able to do it the last 2 years live on CST and really put on a tremendous show, it really makes me feel good. So I'm really humbled by being in. There's so many people on the list of nominees that could go in for this award, and I'm honored to be one of the recipients.
Well, the DSA award is special. It's called the Distinguished Service Award for Sports Journalists. These are folks that have been working in various fields, whether it's broadcast media, whether it's a writer like Ken is. He's been covering, he's in Louisiana State Bowling Hall of Fame as well for his coverage of bowling for the last 3 decades. So a lot of different hats you wear, but I'm excited and happy for you that we'll finally get you inducted. It was supposed to be the last weekend in June, but now it'll be pushed back to December 15th through 17th, which will be exciting as well because of the Christmas lights and everything going on in Natchitoches. That it'll be a pretty time of the year and something a little bit different. And also, it'll be a little bit different for us. Carly McCord Ensminger won't be with us. She was a big part of our television coverage with the red carpet special, as well as her work behind the camera for many years, and I know she'll be missed.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I was thinking about that the other night when it was the night that the induction should have been, and I was thinking back to Carly and all the people who have been involved in it. Art Root, a guy from here in Baton Rouge,
passed away years ago.
For a few years drove his production truck up there and basically did the production for nothing to help us put that show on television. And one of the guys who kind of founded high school football in Baton Rouge on television.
Well, Kent, thanks so much, man, for taking time out of your busy schedule, being here. We'll have you back probably before the Hall of Fame stuff in December. Looking forward to that, and stay safe, my friend.
Thanks, Ronnie. Appreciate it.
All right, we take a break. We'll come back with Trey Ledbetter of Southern Fundraising. We'll talk about some exciting stuff going on in sports memorabilia with Joe Burrow, Drew Brees, and many others. Don't go anywhere.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
And welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance here with you, and joining me right now is Trey Ledbetter. He's the co-owner of Southern Fundraising, been in business a number of years in South Louisiana doing sports memorabilia. They're the official auctioneer memorabilia company of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. Also, they work with LSU Athletics, Ole Miss, and every other kind of foundation under the sun. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Ronnie.
Congratulations. I know you guys got some big news, just confirmed a couple days ago, right?
Yeah, we just signed a 2-year contract extension with LSU. We are the official auction company for LSU. So we handle everything on campus, our fundraising efforts on game day. We have 6 locations, 4 inside the stadium and 2 outside before game day. So come check us out. You can see stuff like this that we have here for sale on game day.
Yeah, so whenever you go to like an LSU football game, and heck, for that matter, whenever you go to pretty much any big-time football game, whether it's NFL or college, you always see the auction tables, that are set up around the facility. It raises money for either charities or for the universities themselves. And I know last year you started doing Ole Miss. You've been doing LSU for a number of years now, and it's just another revenue stream as athletic departments are always trying to find ways to make more money, because those coaches' salaries don't go down, they go up. Right here on the table in front of us are a couple of items that you brought that folks can see when they go to LSU games or different charity events that Southern Fundraising works with. Tell me about this one right here. I think this one's probably my favorite.
So this is a flat mat, full-size custom helmet signed by Drew Brees. The beautiful gold inscription on it with the number 9. Drew Brees signed it, fully authenticated. That's one of the things we sell. It's got like a custom flat mat on the helmet. It's really one of our premier items.
And then the LSU helmet right here, I know you got an interesting story about that one.
So Joe Burrow, we just did a private signing with him up in Athens. One of the best athletes besides Drew that we've worked with, one of our biggest signings we've ever done. And this is a custom called F7 helmet, fully authentic, signed by Joe. Joe is one of the most expensive autographs out right now, especially coming right out of college, but obviously well-deserved.
It's interesting as the whole sports memorabilia world. Now, depending on what event you go to, the range on something like this kind of a custom helmet, Drew Brees signature, I don't know what, $750 to $1,750, anywhere
right.
up in there.
Yeah, that's a good price range. Yes,
and for Joe, probably even a little bit more now, right? More like $1,000 to $2,000.
This is a $1,500 helmet, just because he only signs authentic product.
Right.
He signed a deal with Fanatics, so it was one of those really exclusive items that he was able to sign that you can only purchase those through Southern Fundraising.
Yeah. So I mean, you see these big time athletes doing more of those custom deals. Joe did Fanatics, the contract with them, to where he's only signing Fanatics products or licensed products. He's not going to just sign your jersey that you had made by your aunt or something like that. But that whole world, the whole memorabilia world, is a tricky one, because unless you're dealing with a company like Southern Fundraising or some sort of official auctioneer that comes with that authentication receipt, you might be getting a fake.
Definitely, that's one of the biggest things in our industry. Not to call out eBay, but eBay. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of Joe Burrow autographs on there right now that are selling for $200 or $300, and it's kind of like reading your penmanship in high school or college. You know what you wrote, and being in the industry and being all the time kind of in this world, it's almost like reading your own handwriting because you're just so used to seeing thousands and thousands of examples of that.
Right.
So the Joe Burrow autographs on eBay and some of the other sites out there, you can really tell they're fake.
So how does an athlete, if I'm Joe Burrow or I'm his people, I'm his management, that obviously wants to minimize the amount of fakes that are out there, what do they do? Do they have an intern spending all day going on the internet finding Joe Burrow fakes, and is there anything they can do about it?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with their team. I think it's more of maybe the guys in the industry. It kind of looks bad when I'm trying to sell this for $1,000 or whatever the number is, and there's something on eBay, and you just have to coach the end user or the customer and say, look, Mr. Customer, this isn't authentic because of this reason.
Right.
Joe Burrow, a lot of the guys like Drew Brees and a lot of the bigger names have exclusives with companies like Fanatics, and you want to make sure that that autograph is certified by that company.
Right. So if somebody goes to the LSU football game this year and they see one of your tables around Tiger Stadium and they want to buy something, they obviously are getting an official product that comes with that authentication. So what does that mean when you say it comes with that authentication? Is it paperwork? Is if they want to get paperwork, or how does it work?
So a lot of the times now it's a hologram-based system, and you can look up the certification number online, and then it matches a database online with the description of each item. So every time we go to a major signing, there's either the company like Fanatics or even a third-party witness that says, we hereby stand by that we saw this item signed by this player. And it comes with a certification with a hologram number attached to it, and you can look it up online and see basically the certification behind it.
Your story of how you got into this business is an interesting one to me, right? Because you didn't look at it initially like a business. You were just a fan.
I was a fan. I've been a collector my whole entire life. I've always collected autographs. I've always collected memorabilia, and it was just something that I enjoyed doing. I was doing it on the weekend. I always called it supporting my habit. So I would take something and I would flip it. I would take something that I got signed at training camp. I was always at training camp, or I was the guy chasing athletes out of hotel rooms and in bar rooms, and weirdest place I got an autograph was in the bathroom. So that definitely happened. So I was always chasing autographs, and it just became an addiction, and I wanted to. My first real thing that I wanted to buy was a Babe Ruth ball. So I wanted to sell enough stuff to where I could afford to buy a Babe Ruth ball.
And what did that go for?
$63,000.
You bought a Babe Ruth ball for $63,000?
I did.
Were you married at the time?
That's why I'm divorced.
No, but were you?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't get divorced sooner. I didn't know that story.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So that was my hobby.
Have you flipped that ball yet?
No, I still haven't.
Still haven't?
Yeah. That was one of the things that I really just wanted to go out and get, and one of the things that honestly I couldn't afford that at the time.
Sure.
I mean,
how many people can afford a $63,000 Babe Ruth ball?
So I started flipping things and started selling things and just kind of raising money, and I got a deal on it and found out where it was, and I flew up there to go get it and buy it and made sure all the paperwork and authentication checked out, and that's kind of how
and what do you think that ball's worth now? Honestly, what do you think you could get for that ball? There's what it's worth and what you think you can sell it for, two different things.
It's probably closer to 100.
Okay. So it has gone up in value.
Yeah, it's a very clean example of it. There's not a lot of yellowing in it. It's a single sweet spot ball. It's triple, quadruple certified through some of the best in the country, and it's one of those things I'll probably never sell.
Right.
It's one of those things that I cherish as kind of like the start of I need to do this.
Right.
And then the fundraising side kind of came in by accident.
Yeah, how did that happen?
So I was selling on the weekends, and I was selling on Facebook and eBay, and I was kind of just turning product kind of thing. And a buddy of mine called, and he said, hey, there's a fundraiser this weekend. One of the little girls that was killed in Kenner at Raising Cane's, Taylor Freelou, a few years ago, he was close with her mom. And she said that they had a fundraiser that weekend, and what type of items did I have, and she wanted to buy some stuff from me. And I worked out a deal with them. I said, look, I'll bring everything I have, whatever sells, we'll just split it. That was kind of the thing. I didn't even know what fundraising was. I didn't know.
Right.
A lot of people think that a fundraising company isn't for profit. So I tell people all the time, we're a service provider. So we provide a service to charities, and then we donate a percentage back to them. And that was kind of our first event, and our first weekend in business. I think we gave them over $5,000, the first weekend that we sold stuff. And I was hooked. It felt good not only to make a little money on the weekend, but to help people.
Yeah, and what people don't understand is it's a very simple system, and that is that you can go to auctions and they can get gift certificates for this restaurant or a spa day or a gift basket donated, and all that's fine and dandy, and
Right.
and everybody should do that. But when you go to those auction items where they have a lot of high-end sports memorabilia or artwork or whatever, some of that stuff occasionally gets donated, but most of it is a company like yours, like Southern Fundraising, that comes, and what it does is it makes your auction look good. It gives people something to look at and browse, even if they don't purchase it.
Right.
It makes the auction look high end, first class, and fun for the people. And at the end of the day, you guys come together, set the price on the items, and the auction company, the charity, gets a percentage, usually at 25% or whatever, back to them, plus sometimes a little more than that,
Right.
based on the pricing. So it helps them raise money. It helps their auction look good. And there's a lot of charities out there that literally don't do any legwork, and they just call you up and say, "Bring it all, whatever you got," because we don't want to go get anything. And it's a pretty cool system you have in place. All right, we got to take a break. Our final timeout. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more with Trey Ledbetter of Southern Fundraising, the co-owner of a company that's affiliated with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, LSU, and many, many charities throughout South Louisiana. We'll be back with more right after this.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Welcome back, everyone. Final segment of Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. Of course, Trey's been working with the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame for a number of years, and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, of course, our events this year backed up from the spring, summer to the fall, where we'll have our golf tournament October 5th and 6th at the Golden Nugget in Lake Charles, and of course our Hall of Fame 3-day event chock full of activities the 15th through 17th of December up in Natchitoches and Alexandria. You can get the info through lasportshall.com. Last year, Peyton Manning was there. And, Peyton Manning's in that upper echelon of autographs as far as value and that sort of thing. You've been dealing with Drew Brees. You've been dealing with Joe Burrow. You got a Peyton Manning. You got a Tom Brady. Is Joe Burrow, especially for the folks from Louisiana, right? I mean, that's a special case. Joe Burrow autograph in Louisiana, is it as valuable as a Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, or a Drew Brees?
So take Tom Brady out of the conversation because he is in another stratosphere.
He's the most expensive.
He is.
Of all the
he
football
sets
players?
the bar.
Okay.
So everybody else kind of follows and trickles underneath that. For example, you can't really find an authentic Tom Brady autograph through TriStar for less than $1,500, $1,300 bucks.
And that just because he just doesn't sign very many things?
He doesn't sign. He has the exclusive, and for argument's sake, the greatest of all time.
Right.
Whether
Yeah,
you
sure.
feel
No,
about
he is.
that, I mean,
He is. Yeah.
I think Drew Brees is. But
Yeah.
so he just kind of sets the bar with pricing. Everybody else falls underneath that, and it kind of just sets the precedent for the next athletes. Locally, I think Drew is right next to Joe Burrow, and it's weird to say because he's never played it down
Right.
in the NFL. But locally, the Burrow autograph, the exclusiveness of his autograph right now, puts him next to Drew Brees as far as price range.
You just got back from Ohio, where you went up there with a truck full of
Literally a trailer.
trailer full of stuff to
Right.
get autographed. It was you and a couple other companies from around the country
Correct.
that had an exclusive 2-day signing with Joe Burrow. You told me you guesstimated he probably the amount of money that he grossed from the signing of stuff for 2 days was probably about $1 million.
I would say it's close to that.
Close
for
to
sure.
$1 million. Now,
Yeah.
I know after he pays his people and this, that, and the other, who knows what his take home actually is, but at least a $500,000 minimally.
I would.
He
I would
probably
think
made
so.
off that.
I mean, just Southern Fundraising ourselves did almost 200 autographs.
Yeah, I mean that's unbelievable, especially his pricing structure and everything. I mean, if you want, let's see, this one's got, what does this one have on it? This is Joe Burrow number 9, and it says 19 Heisman. So if you want Joe Burrow number 9, that's one price. If you
Right.
want 19 Heisman, that's another upcharge.
Every 3 words is an upcharge.
Yeah, I mean,
So we got one of the coolest things that I've ever seen or gotten signed. It takes a lot to impress. I see memorabilia all day long.
Sure.
One of the things that we got signed there that Joe signed was a official band uniform from one of the band
Really?
guys from Tigerland, and he wrote on it, "Joe Burrow, play neck."
wow,
And I
that's
thought that
really
was
cool.
that was cool.
That was somebody wanted that.
A
and it was
customer sent it in to us, and
he
we
didn't
brought
have
it up
to
there.
sign that.
He didn't. In fact, he probably wasn't supposed to.
Right.
We only had a small list of things he could sign,
Right.
which was Heisman or champion or
Right.
the year, and that was one of the things that he signed and just kind of did it.
Right. That's really cool. He's Trey Ledbetter, Southern Fundraising. Where can folks find some of this type?
So you can find it on our website, southernfundraising.org. It's southernfundraising.org. And we have a ton of examples. You can find us on Facebook, Southern Fundraising. We're one of the official auction companies for LSU. We have thousands of product of Saints LSU.
About 30 seconds left. Favorite athlete that you've dealt with and favorite autographs that you've gotten?
Drew is definitely on top of all that. First class guy. It's not just a story, what he says and people say about him.
But Pete Rose is right up there too. You give me a quick Pete Rose story.
Pete Rose is first class.
Yeah.
Pete Rose will sign anything for $1.
They spent some
Yeah.
time with Pete Rose and Jose Canseco in Las Vegas a
Right.
few weeks ago, along with other athletes, and there's a really cool picture. 10 seconds. Tell me about the picture you got signed.
So there's a 16 by 20 that you can purchase through Southern Fundraising. It has Pete Rose on one side, Jose Canseco on the other. 0 steroids, godfather of steroids.
And they both signed it and wrote that. 0 steroids for Pete Rose, godfather of steroids for Jose Canseco. He's Trey Ledbetter. Thanks to Kent Lowe from LSU for joining us earlier. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for having me on.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.